Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Dave Dobbs here. It's the 10th of November, 2023. And when I'm going to cut to the chase, we've got the next big flyby coming in. This one here, do you remember this shot? This time last year, around about the 24th of November, 2022, caught by World of Signs. It's like an annual eclipse. And it's not the moon that's causing that. You can see the big red orb down there. Well, we're at the same time of year now as it was back then, and this object, I'm of a mind, is very possibly 1 month further forward than it was last year. So we can expect a much closer flyby. And that's the flyby this is what I'm of mind is coming in. This shot here was posted by SD1er yesterday, and it's an incredible shot, and I'm of mind that is the object that we're really talking about here. He's just closing it off there. That's right at the end of his video. Maybe I should just come slightly further, get a real kind of pan up. I'm also of a mind that Jeff Berwick of the Dollar Vigilante, he made a video a few days back. When did he post this video? He posted this video on the the date there, first published on the 4th of November, and I screenshotted whatever the word is. Just after that scene, I showed you at this point here, 33.43 is that. He spun the camera around, and see this over here. This is, I'm of mind, is the same thing. This is it coming. It's traversing. You know, to really understand this shot, what we're seeing here. I mean, it's just the tail end, literally the tail end of it, and the object has sort of come round, and you're seeing the tail of it as it's coming in front of the sun and heading out that direction. He's not aware he's taking that shot, because he's very much of a mind that the storms, and you know, he's in this video he's in Acapulco, and it's been hit by this massive storm, and both him and Max Egan have had their homes destroyed. So I'm so sorry about that. They're both very much of a mind that that all these big storms, and there's so many big storms hitting now, and you know, there's lots of volcanic activity going on. Certainly Iceland is really picking up, and I don't think Iceland's going to be the center of it, but Iceland's going to get big eruptions now. Obviously it's going to get a big, no doubt, pyroclastic flow. A lot of magma is going to start releasing out fissures. But is it really going to take off there? To me, that the Icelandic volcano, that's certainly the fissures that are opening up now. You know, we saw the biggest kind of volcanism, the biggest kind of like a release of magma in 2021, in late 2021. And no, we didn't. Sorry, we saw it in the beginning of 2021, and then at the end of 2021, we started seeing we had a long duration, the longest duration of any volcano that we have ever observed, in terms of just constant spew of magma. Do you remember La Palma? So we started in 2021 with Iceland, and we ended it with it was a massive long duration volcano that beat pretty much anything we'd seen. And just when we thought we'd broken all the records, and the only long duration volcano we've heard of that kind of duration was as far as I'm understanding it, La Palma back in the 1500s, in the late 1500s. And then suddenly, just when the Icelandic volcano stopped, do you remember, around about August, the Icelandic volcano, the La Palma, started up and went right through to December. Another long duration volcano. Well, that was that object. So if we come back to, if we come over to here, and we remember Matt Rogers shot from 2016. I don't know if you remember that shot where he literally sees this. Let me just come to the. So he saw this bright light, and then suddenly the bright light came over the horizon. Oh, this was late at night, 10, 11 o'clock at night, and the object was getting brighter. You could see a bright light in the sky, and then the object came over the horizon, and as we're seeing here, and then dropped down. And when it dropped below the horizon, you could see all the debris in its tail also. Well, when you think about that shot there, I'm just going to let you see the debris. It was an incredible shot. It was absolutely. It really put Matt Rogers on the map, and we haven't heard a lot from Matt Rogers lately. But I'll just let you see that little bit there, because, like I say, this was back in 2016. See all the debris there, and you can really just see it. As this goes down, you're going to see that debris become more and more clear. You can see the volume of debris that's in the tail. But that was my old model. And then, do you remember, that was 2015. This was 2019. This was around about July the 3rd, 2019, caught by Alex Lujan, and you can really see there's some clear object moving quite fast because of our position. And then we come forward to that shot, and we see the whole curve. If you can imagine, there's the sun, there's the object. This was taken in September, on September the 1st, 2019. Well, now we are at the Earth is kind of over here now. We're in the November position, so we've tracked much further round, and we're in this kind of position over here with this object coming towards us, and that's the whole tail. And this object, this shot here, but also by Alex Lujan, posted, like I say, on the 1st of September 2019, gave us the first, because I was imagining this was coming round our sun and looping back round. I just wasn't imagining it was going to come towards our sun, but then back off as if it's orbiting something over here, and or literally orbiting something over here. And it was a mind-blowing shot. It was an absolutely mind-blowing shot, and this is the real flyby that we're talking about. And then, do you remember Calvin looking for Hobbes? He took this shot on the 15th of October 2020, and you can see how we are starting to understand. It's an incredible shot, and the whole video there of he was utterly perplexed. Saying it's like a portal opening up or something. It was absolutely mesmerizing shot. And then we come back to this shot, and which, like I say, was first posted I saw by World of Signs, and it seemed to he posted the video on the 24th of November. Whether it was the 24th of November, it just says November in the shot, but I've just kind of I don't know if you remember me, Proof Planet X caused Chernobyl and Fukushima nuclear disasters, and this was the first time that, can you see how I was building my models? All my original models all positioned the sun not moving along on the ecliptic, but moving either north or south of, as if the sun was moving either north directly up on its north pole, towards its north pole, or down towards its south pole. I've got it as if the sun's moving down towards its south pole. It's not how planets move at all, but I couldn't explain all of the sightings that we were getting using the standard heliocentric model on an ecliptic plane, with the sun kind of moving out on the ecliptic plane. And so for a long time, right up until May the 4th, 2018, when we started getting incredible shots that just weren't in my model at all, and I was trying to work out, and I was just playing with new animation software that was enabling me to build 3D animations and start trying to start evolving my understanding of what potentially was happening, because it didn't fit into the heliocentric model in any way, shape or form. And so here, if I just zoom in a bit here, I'm kind of showing you this here is kind of this here. Sorry, it's not a very clear, and I'm sure by the time this is come through, but this is not how this moves. But this was this model all came from how Nassim Haramein. Do you remember Nassim Haramein came forward and he came forward and postulated, and he's an astrophysicist who's really who's postulated some fantastic ideas to kind of help us understand how our kind of solar system and our galaxy connects with the universe at large and the interconnections. You know, so he's kind of like in some ways he's quite similar to the electric universe. In some ways, his ideas and postulations and the way he connects everything up, and what he calls his worldview, and he talks a lot about having a worldview and developing a worldview, and you know, it's a progressive kind of mindset that enables you to kind of see things in a much bigger way. And that's what we're all trying to do here. And that, if anything, I'm not going to give you the answers here because I truly don't know the answers. You know, we're desperately trying to piece together all of what's happening, all the kind of sightings, all the seismology, all the volcanism, all the crazy storms, and all the other anomalies that come in with these incredible sightings that have just come in over and over and over, and been utterly predictable. And so, you know, when we see shots like this, you know, and I realise that it is a light anomaly. I'm not trying to say that those planets are exactly there in that position, because when we see the footage, you know, when Elon Musk sent the car into space 4 years ago or something like that. Let me just play that for a shake. You can see the way that pans across. You know, I'm of a mind that those objects are up there, but the light coming down from the sun is kind of projecting them, and so we're getting a view of them. He's sent this car into space to show us these objects and to give us a view of these objects, but he's not actually showing us these objects. He's showing us the light refracting via the sun and the objects somehow beyond or in close proximity, but being caught in these rays, and he's giving us a view of them from that perspective. That's why he sent this. That's why he sent the car into space, to give us this, to give us a view. You know, he's not giving it all away, but certainly I saw recently this video posted by Evolutionary Energy Art, and they're talking about the two suns and what, you know, because we're getting a lot of sightings of two suns as per usual, and he shows this shot from some that was published back in 1683, 2 years after Sir Francis, who was it? It was Newton, Isaac Newton. Apologies, Isaac Newton. You know, he postulated in 1681. Halley's Comet, and then it flew by again a month later. Of course, no one mentioned that a month later. It was just like, it was very difficult to talk about all these things back then. It's very difficult really now to talk about these things now, because we are locked into a lot of belief systems about what we're seeing in the sky, but we were seeing the same things back then. But what was very odd with this video was Elon Musk posted this video here, showing this woman. It's there's a part of the shot there. You can really see this woman standing on this some kind of parapet with the earth below, and then it's very difficult to work out what that is, but you can. It's like a world going, or it's like the world inside out on another layer. But what's interesting is what she's playing, and when we actually look at it, we can see it's some kind of mechanical orrery, you know, some kind of mechanical solar system. But can you see how we've got two systems here? We've got one here and one here, and she plays this bit of music as the worlds kind of go round in this kind of clockwork style, and she's got she seems to have Venus in her hair. Oh, sorry, Venus. She seems to have. Is that Saturn, or could that be kind of like a black hole? The center of the galaxy, maybe, or maybe a supernova, or it could be Saturn. It's very bright for Saturn, but it's an incredible video. But you can imagine if someone like Elon Musk obviously holds a lot of secrets about what's happening up in space. You know, certainly the story that we've been told. It all kind of like it all, you know, and then we got shots like you know, this video here from UFO Mania, The Truth Is Out There, showing these incredible shots of what clearly looks like Saturn there, and loads of other incredible shots of flying over Saturn, and really old footage that just doesn't make any sense. And then they also posted another video, which was USB stick found in Germany with astonishing actual videos of planets and UFOs in space. Very similar thing, like incredible shots of loads of spaceships flying around, loads of UFOs, unusual shots of planets like you've never seen. Is that a shot of Jupiter? Incredible shots of Jupiter, incredible shots of planets that and the footage looks like it's been shot on a kind of 1940s cine camera or something like that, or a really old footage. And we struggle to believe all of this. There's so much stuff we struggle to believe. But yeah, that's UFO Mania as well, you know. So this is kind of stirring up. People have seen this footage. I've seen various people talking about how they saw this footage a couple of years ago. So it sounds like it's been around for quite some time. But I mean, what are we seeing here? Is that Jupiter in the background? Is this one of the moons of Jupiter? You know, and the UFOs that are flying around, and the activity that's going on in here. We've got two massive UFOs here, and they're kind of flying, and we've got lights coming off here, there, and everywhere. It's a real fascinating bit of footage, and it all kind of brings me back to this understanding that when I come back to this model that I've built here, which just to kind of come back out for all the new timers, I'm assuming that this is whatever we're calling our sun and this other system, what I call the Pluto system, this big blue planet that we've renamed. We seem to rename every 84 years, and so if we come back to 262. 3 days of darkness, earthquakes all across Asia, all across Europe, all across Africa. You know, it's the downfall of the Roman Empire. It caused massive plagues, massive famines. Like I say, Rome was annihilated. The Roman Empire was annihilated by this. This is when they left. This is when the Romans left Italy, left Rome, and migrated to Constantinople, to Turkey, and to restart, because they'd been absolutely decimated. As they decimated for 1,000 years, they were decimated by this. And so you'd had someone come along, like Jesus, supposedly, you know, a couple of hundred years before, saying, you know, that there's going to be retribution for your harsh ways. There's a karmic reaction to all this, and if you don't change your ways, massive retribution will come. And sure enough, massive retribution came, and I found this by mathematics. And then what happens is, you know, over 1,800 years, let's go back to and just play that if I just speed that up a little bit, and I'll pay you the 1,800 years, and then we come to the 1500s, where where it's starting to come into view, and we're seeing this, the arrival of Jupiter, if you like, and everything else like that. And then we come to Isaac Newton's time, and noticing that our sun is dropping below the ecliptic of the main ecliptic of the Planet X system, and then it's starting to cut through up here, which is where all the activity happens. And then we're getting kind of the time when William Herschel would discover Uranus here in Bath, right where I am now, and then we go to another 84 years, and we come to when kind of like the Carrington event, 1859, where anyone in any electrical machinery got electrocuted because of a massive burst of Schumann resonance, a massive burst of electricity that pushed over all the pylons in 1859. You know, you wouldn't have thought there'd been that much electricity going on, but there were trams running, there were electric cars, there were pylons over much of there were pylons carrying electricity in much of America. It was, the industrial age was very electrical by 1859. There was lots going on, and then we come 84 years later, after the discovery of Neptune, to discovery of Pluto. And then we see this interaction, and it's not exactly like this. I've had to, this was my first attempt, like I say, to understand how we see this every 12 years, these big cycles, big dams collapsing, crazy storms, crazy earthquakes, nuclear power stations going into meltdown, all on this kind of what we would call Jupiter. Fukushima went bang on the kind of perihelion point of Jupiter. Whether it's that, the same goes with Chernobyl. And then you keep going back at that date, and you'll see the most incredible kind of like flooding, storms, dams collapsing, earthquakes, going right back to Carlos Ferrada's big prediction back in 1939. Where he said, where he predicted on the 20th of January 1939 there'll be a massive earthquake in Chile, and that Planet X was going to fly by right on the perihelion point of Jupiter. And sure enough, it flies by, and we go 84 years from 1939, when, ironically, the Second World War started, where, like I say, the biggest sighting in the Planet X range, the biggest predictions were all coming true. All the big earthquakes were going off. All the big volcanoes would begin going during the Second World War. That's when Vesuvius went off in early 1944. That's when we were seeing all this sort of activity that is all about to start up again now, because everything that's happened has been mostly about affecting the southern hemisphere, not all. But now the whole thing is reversing, and everything plays out. So we've had 400 years of this whole process coming in, and now we're going to get 400 years, as far as I can see, of this whole process going out. And so we get the unwinding. We're coming into the unwinding, this massive process. So I'm not trying to, it's to try and build a system and understand how a system works. But if we now come forward to just with all the overlays, as I'm beginning to understand, we've got the big blue one that I call Hydra here, and this one this is the one that caused the Icelandic volcano in like I say in at the beginning of 2000. It's around about March 2021, and affected us right up to about August 2021. And basically from 2018, when we had Kilauea going off on May the 4th, 2018, and then every you'll notice that if this goes forward 1 month every calendar year, and then we get let me come to, so we can come back to these, but just then we've got the pair here, and I'm not going to focus so much on the pair here, but these are the ones that caused Fukushima, and they caused Chernobyl. And we've got so many shots of the pair. We understand more about the pair and charting the pair. And we can see in 2011, 2010, we had on the 27th of February 2010, we had the big Chile earthquake, the big 8.8 Chile earthquake, and the day before we had the big Icelandic volcanic eruption, a massive single, massive Strombolian style kind of eruption, except it was, I don't know what you call them when they're huge, great, you know, Strombolian kind of like volcano is, as I'm understanding it, it's not necessarily the biggest eruption going. I don't know what they call the super high altitude volcanoes, but that was what that was. It was a massive eruption. Do you remember it shut down the air travel the day before the earthquake hit Chile? You know, the volcano went bang. It caused a lot of whether this is going to be the same type of eruption with what's going on now. But let's keep going right up to 2023, because we've had in 2023 at this point, when these synced up again, this was the beginning of the year, and I showed you where was it? You know, if we just look at my channel, I'm not going to open up the videos, but this sighting here and these all came in with the Turkey earthquakes at the beginning of this year. These shots that I said you were going to see, they were going to come with massive earthquakes. It was going to be unbelievable. And of course, you know, we call them, oh, that's just a lenticular cloud. And you know, we can believe whatever we like, I guess. But you know, sometimes at certain points we see the object, and at certain times we see the object's tail, and it depends on how we're seeing them, you know. And but anyway, that was those, and there's so many shots of those. Where were we? We were. So that was I call them Kerberos and Charon, both named after Pluto's moons, and Charon obviously being the biggest of the moons, and actually in reality Charon is most likely what Galileo would have called Europa, because it's the biggest. You know, it's the one that Richard Harrington named in the 70s when he discovered the biggest moon of Pluto. These are all the same thing, in my opinion. I might be wrong, but the sightings, the patterns are just so fantastic. So we've spent a long time over the years chartering. The first one I just showed you, which I call Hydra, which is, like I say, really the big one that that Galileo would have called, like I say, would have called Europa. That Richard Harrington would have called Charon. These are all the same. These two are the same things, but what you know, what he would have observed anyway. And so we've seen that, we've charted these. We're getting shots of these now going into the night sky at the moment, the pair of them, and I'm going to show you some of those later. But let's come forward now and look at Europa, what I call Europa, the one that I was able to bring into the model because of where was it? The one that I would have put in the model because of this shot. And that is this curve here. It's not coming round our sun. It looks like it is. And so we're kind of like now we are seeing this model. We've watched this, and what's happening is I made a mistake when I built this model. I was assuming it dropped back one calendar month every year. Remember, noticing this is coming in from this direction and then coming out this direction. As the other object, which I think is this one, I've got the tail of it here, but I'm not too sure. But the other object, which I called Hydra in this model, the big blue one, is coming round here and coming back round. But they've both got the same orbital mechanics. So the pair are dropping back 1 month every year, and the blue one and Europa are going forward 1 month every year by everything we seem to be observing. You know, the shots I showed you before are basically, I know I haven't got the year right here, but just because of the position it is right now and seeing Earth there and everything else like that, you know, when we saw it in 2016, we were watching it coming in, so we were seeing it. We were there watching it. I know I haven't got the dates right there, but forget the dates for a sec. But just imagine we were looking out into the night sky, seeing this object coming towards us. And that was there, not Jupiter, that I put in there for the mathematics, just to give us a ballpark understanding of what Jupiter would look like, as not obviously going around our sun, but just its orbital mechanics, going round an object, and working on the assumption that maybe all these things were orbiting Jupiter, because I just couldn't believe that this, what we were calling Jupiter, this big blue object, could actually come in and go around our sun, which is what it appears to be doing. And what I'm about to suggest to you is that this big red one, is also, this is the big red one itself that's coming round. And this is what I was of mind, that one of that this twin tail object was a much smaller thing. It wasn't the big red object that we keep seeing. And I'm starting to come of mind that they are one and the same. This twin tail object that we've been observing is the big red object also, except that we've been seeing it at such a distance that we can't even conceive its size. Not to say that it's much bigger than Earth or anything else like that. I'm assuming, I just don't know what the size of it is really. I know it's big. It's big. But we're still struggling to really perceive the size of these objects. So that was that shot, Matt Rogers shot in 2016, and then what's happened is after 2016 it has progressed forward one calendar month further forward every year, to the point 2018 we were starting to see it, and 19 we were starting to see it over here. 2020, you know, Calvin looking for Hobbes, he's looking at the object at this point here. It's not over here on the way out. He's literally looking at it at this point here, somewhere around here. And then the shot from World of Signs is we're obviously further here. We're about here, and we're looking at this object coming towards us here. And I have in mind that this month it's going to be further forward. This year it's going to be 1 month further forward. And are we getting the signs? Are we getting the signs that this is the case? You remember what was it? You know, with all the when was it? It was well, you remember this shot here, posted by Dill Martin. That is that same object. That is the big blue object. That I always assumed is this one cutting across, but it is actually the one I just showed you. Basically, you know, that in this model I call Europa, and we've got all of the flybys overlaid here, so it's a very complicated thing to get your head around. And then we get this shot, and after, and possibly the same thing, possibly not. Seems to be more coming from the sun than going towards the sun. The sun seems to be in the background. Is it one and the same thing? You know, we've so explored this. You know, it was a long time before it was another year after I kind of like really started kind of playing with pushing forward with these ideas of our sun not moving in the kind of fashion. You see, as I often talk about well, let me just take you back to this shot. I brought this shot into my video last year. You can imagine that Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, Jupiter, Eris, Uranus, certainly all our big blue players from not to say Jupiter is big and blue, but you know, for Galileo, he saw it as a big blue object. He named Jupiter thinking it was a big blue object. He was seeing it super close. in 1613, and we see they're all on this side of the sun. You see, the assumption is that these objects go all the way around, but you can imagine Pluto's got a 200 and, well, Uranus is an 84-year object, and Neptune is 2 times 84. Once 82 is 16. Well, it's 165 years, not 168, which would be obviously 2 times 64. But it's very close to that 2 times 84, and of course Neptune is 3 times 84, which means that we are told that Pluto will get to this side of the sun, but of course it's never been at this side of the sun since we've observed it in 1930. It hasn't had a chance to be over here yet in its observation. Obviously, if it was there and it was doing, but it's never been observed over here. It was observed 84 years before, so that's 1/3 of its cycle back here. That takes it quite a way. Would it take it way back here? Neptune, 2 times 84, 165-year orbit. You know, in your lifetime, this is never going to get over here. You know, imagine if these objects haven't been coming right back here as you've been told. Imagine if it is like Elon Musk is showing in this model here, in this orrery here, when we actually come close to her. Imagine if it's one system here. Imagine this is not our solar system. Imagine if this is our solar system. And as we get closer to these objects, when they're passing around here, we see them in our night sky. Even though we've got this bright light here, these objects are, when these systems come so close, they start looping around our sun, or they start doing perturbations of their orbit towards our sun and cut through, like I'm showing with what I'm calling Europa in the model. That we're naming after Galileo's first sighting of the biggest moon of Jupiter in 1610. We're seeing all these perturbations, but they don't actually go right round. We're not the center of the objects here. You know, their orbit is not center to our sun. You remember this shot posted by I always bring this into my video because it's one of the, if not the most amazing shot in the plethora of shots that I show. It was caught by, as I often discuss, Jeff P on the 14th of October 2016, and on a webcam looking northeast. And what was most interesting was I'm of a mind it's plasma charging into Mars. One of these objects is plasma charging into Mars, and the reason this shot came into view after the actual lightning, the thunderbolt, and it shorted something out, and then this massive bright light appears. We see this little feature here, which is indicative of this massive shield-like thing that we've seen that we can't believe. It's all unbelievable. But a massive sun comes into view and then blinks out of view. But it starts with a massive plasma charge that seems to disrupt some process. And then boom, there's something shuts down. This massive sun appears after the thunderbolt, and then in a blink of an eye it all suddenly goes out again. And that is that. And we are in a very convoluted story that keeps us disconnected from our true place in the galaxy, in the galactic story. Because We are receivers and transmitters, and we can connect to any part of the universe. That is our gift. That is our potential. And so to restrict us from bringing in much higher assistance and connecting to much higher frequencies and vibrations, they've shut our stories down with this crazy astronomical model that we all live in, that we call this standard model, this 500-year-old model, that isn't allowing us to understand what we're seeing, because none of the shots make sense. You know, and when we see shots like this is an incredible shot posted by Mr. MBB 333 on November the 4th. And when you see this object, you can just see it's tumbling. He's really trying to show you. He makes an enormous effort to try and show you how. I mean, he's not trying to say what this is. He's not saying it's an asteroid or anything else like that. He's got, you know, he's trying to be quite open with it. But it is an incredible shot of what seems to be an asteroid flying by Earth and skimming by our atmosphere. He's also showing. He's showing some other shots, but I'll come to those. He showed this on the 1st of November, and this is quite likely one of the pair, one of the twin tails. You know, we see the twins that I've showed you that I call Kerberos and Charon in my last 2020 model, named after, as I say, the moons of Pluto and obviously the big object that Richard Harrington named in the 70s, who was massively influential to Zachar Sitchin and his book, The 12th Planet. You know, he was a big. They were all very much working together in that whole process. So he's showing that, and it's kind of a it's kind of that size in the
helicopter.
sky. You're kind of seeing it's just a tiny little dot really, but they zoom in and he's showing more of them like that. He's showing these other image of what looks like a pair of objects, and this is the same pair. They've come around just like all the other planets, and they're now going into our night sky. And though you're just seeing the little tiny lights reflecting like that, they're distant now. They're going to circumnavigate around the object, this second sun. They're gonna orbit around this second sun, and they're going to come back out the other side, and on it's going to go. So I'm kind of expecting to see that. The same thing here on the 15th of September. Brighter there because it's closer to us there. It's earlier, so it's getting further and further. They're getting further and further away, but we're getting exceptional shots. People seeing these incredible shots, wondering what the hell they are and what it is. Then the big blue haze of the big blue object. That this was posted back in on the 19th of October, and so by that time, by the 19th of October, the blue object would have overtaken us and gone round us and gone back towards and gone back and would be pretty much back at the object it's really orbiting. You know, whether you want to call it the Pluto system, it's on the far side of, or just approaching the far side of the object it's really orbiting, whether it be whatever that big object is. You know, we've charted this so much. We've got so many incredible shots of this, you know. And so now it will have come back out and be on its move back round again to begin. So it's going to be getting closer to Earth now. As in if we come to, I mean, the models, this, if I bring just the just what I'm calling Hydra. Hydra, there it is there. You can imagine we can go through another year, but it doesn't go that, it only goes up to about there. But you can imagine this is going to carry on here. This is actually further forward now. And as we went round, it carried on to go round what it's orbiting and is coming back round, and we're seeing it round about here in October, and it's coming back round. This is its fastest. This would be its. It's not perihelion. I don't know what to call it. You know, we that perihelium is close to the sun. So something gets close to the Earth, we say it's perigee. Something gets close to the sun, we say it's perihelium. What do we call something that gets close to a dwarf planet that's spewing out iron? Fe is iron. So could we call it periphelium? That's just, you know, I don't know what you could call it, but its closest point, this is a big gravitational center, much bigger than this, so our sun. So it's going to accelerate, and it's going to be much faster around this bit than potentially around our sun. I can imagine here it's going to be a much bigger loop because it got pulled off its orbit by our sun, and loops round and goes back round, whatever you want to call it, the Pluto system, the Uranus system, the Jupiter system, the Neptune system, the whatever system that we've renamed to keep us in this very simple heliocentric model, which has got aspects of truth. But it's not by any means the whole truth. It's not giving us a real picture of the astronomical system that we're in. And obviously, what we're about to experience, if this is correct, if I am correct, and we're expecting a massive flyby now. Like I say, it's not in my original model. It's not in this model. Like I say, this Europa is, you know, Europa drops one calendar month back every year in this model, so it's not correct. And but nonetheless, we needed to postulate, or I needed to postulate all these ideas and to put them into motion, so that I can gather all my workings to date, which are incorporated into this model. And obviously, since 2020, I've made so many corrections to this model, but it hasn't actually been corrected into a model. You know, I'm just making notes of all of the different changes to this as I've seen them, as I'm going along. So I'm preparing to rebuild this in a much more to bring in all the corrections that we've had since 2020. So that was that shot. I'm just running through these. Do you remember this shot here on the this was posted by UFO Disclosure on the 14th of October 2013, and you know, he was just absolutely perplexed of what he was seeing. He was just seeing this object rising up. This was obviously seen from Australia, and it's the big blue object coming towards us. Not the one that's coming in now. This is coming in from the night sky, heading towards us. And it's just one of the shots that really just absolutely magnificent, and it's kind of very similar to some of the shots that Mr. MBB 333 is showing now, except the objects he's showing are the pair moving further away from their kind of main orbital point of this other sunlight object that we've seen various times. We get incredible shots of. We can never believe, but we just get incredible shots of it as it comes into view from time to time. And you remember that shot? This is the red object. This was caught so Notice that the blue one seen from the southern hemisphere on this side at this point. This one has been coming in from the northern hemisphere. So when this finishes at the end of after this period, this is going to start flying by in the southern hemisphere, and the blue one is going to start doing its flybys in the northern hemisphere. They're going to reverse. Everything's going to unfold. Everything that's happened over the last since Galileo's time is going to now unfold and reverse. So we've got 400 years of this going out. And the next 84 years is going to be everything we've seen over the last 84 years, but in the way it affected mostly the southern hemisphere. This is going to affect mostly now the northern hemisphere, which is to say that the massive fault line that's running down from the Kamchatka Peninsula. And remember, we've just had a massive eruption of the biggest volcano on the Kamchatka Peninsula, one of the biggest volcanoes in the northern hemisphere outside of Hawaii, has just gone bang. And which was it? It was the gates of hell have just opened. Klyuchevskoy volcano. I'm probably not saying that right at all, but it is an absolutely staggeringly massive volcano, releasing an absolute staggering amount of carbon dioxide. You think Stromboli, massive local volcano that's not that massive, nothing like this, releases something like 80 million tons of carbon dioxide in a big eruption. What is this thing doing? What are all these volcanoes doing? You're seeing all these kind of big volcanoes. Popocatépetl is absolutely going absolutely mental, and it has been for quite some time now. Over the last few months, it's been really active, with the big blue one flying by, and then now this big red one. We're seeing loads and loads of activity, and obviously massive activity in Iceland at the moment. Not massive, but remember where that sits. This coming out of Iceland here is the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, or the Rift, whatever they call it. The Mid-Atlantic, I think it's Mid-Atlantic Ridge or Mid-Atlantic Rift. Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Where were we? We were there. This is running all the way from north to south, and this ridge is going under the Atlantic, not under the Pacific. Whether it drops down and goes into the Pacific down below, I'm not too sure. No, I don't think it does. I think it just drops straight down into the straight through down the Atlantic, and that instead of where this volcano sits, this sits on the top of the Emperor Hawaiian Seamount chain, and that's an underground under the ocean chain of volcanoes that goes all the way from here, the Kamchatka Peninsula, which is right at the northern tip of the Pacific Basin, and it runs underwater all the way down to Hawaii, and where the biggest volcano on the planet is. Obviously, much of it is underwater, but that whole ridge has been getting really excited. Loads of underwater volcanoes heating the oceans from underneath, creating all the moisture coming up, all the volcanoes either side that's producing all this dust, where all this moisture coming up from the boiling Pacific has been condensing on these particles, creating these megastorms that since May the 4th, 2018, when Kilauea went off massively, these storms have got bigger and bigger and bigger every year, especially in China. But all around the globe, we've seen a massive increase. But certain areas that are very close to the Pacific, and when this moisture comes up and dumps, America's been getting it, everywhere's been getting it. The whole globe has been seeing unprecedented volumes of rain as a result of massive increase in volcanoes and a massive increase in underwater fault lines, boiling the oceans from, you compound these things together, you get megastorms. And that's what's been going on. Well, now that Mid-Atlantic Ridge is going to start really getting excited, and we're going to start seeing the same thing that's been happening in the Pacific now happening in the Atlantic. So we are going to start beginning to see megastorms coming in on to the land masses, the border of the Atlantic. We're just going to start seeing the unfolding, but it's going to, instead of it slowly coming in, because the first sequence of earthquakes and volcanoes and seismology and crazy storms was slowly gradual as they got to come to the ecliptic plane, and when all the long duration volcanoes began in like I say, May the 4th 2018 with Kilauea, and then we start seeing a massive increase in long duration volcanoes and certainly a massive increase in volcanoes. We saw 61 volcanoes simultaneously spewing in August, September. It was just off the radar with the big blue one and the passages of that big flyby. So now we're starting to see the everything migrating to the northern hemisphere, in my opinion, which means that we start getting megastorms. We start seeing, volcanoes like Vesuvius awaken. Tomorrow is going to be a day before the new moon. So, we see, the big earthquake that happened on the 24th of December. No, was it 24th? No, it was the 26th of December, 2004. It was Boxing Day. And it caused a massive tsunami. One of the biggest earthquakes in the range, if not the biggest, but it was absolutely massive, caused massive damage, massive tsunami. You might remember all the hype when it was going off. It was absolutely massive. That happened either on the full or the new moon. Many of these earthquakes either happen on the quarter moon, depending on whether the object coming in is way above the ecliptic or way below the ecliptic, will affect whether it will pull the moon down or up when it's away from its. The full moon and the new moon are aligned with the sun. So you can imagine it's very difficult to pull objects away because they're so attracted to that very strong electromagnetic point or that gravitational point of that alignment. And we get big seismology when something comes into that alignment, as we're happening now. If I'm right, you can imagine. Where was it? It was, you can imagine that shot, there was an incredible alignment there. Admittedly, this object was still quite far away then, but obviously getting much closer to us. So we were seeing seismology right at the, close to the point of the full or the new moon. But the 13th is the new moon. And what are we, did I say the 10th today? We're the 10th today, so this object is kind of here now. It's here. We are gonna, if you like, it's not exactly like that, but we're obviously going round this sun, and this object is coming around here. So it's more coming over here now, and we are going to swing round in front of it as it comes out. If it is as I'm imagining it to be. I mean, the movements of this are absolutely incredible. So, along with all this, there's so many volcanoes going. There's so much activity going on, and they're talking about the Blue Lagoon, lava badlands or whatever that is. But there's all these beautiful lagoons where I think they're tourist attractions, and I think that's where the thermal power is also coming from. They're very concerned because it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm of mind that it is affecting there, but it's actually affecting the whole fault line under the oceans, which is why the whole jet stream has changed now. We're not, the moisture that was coming in, much of the moisture from many of these storms is actually coming as a result. Certainly the storms hitting the Panhandle, I'm much more of a mind it's been coming up from the Pacific, not so much the Atlantic. But now we're going to see, as the Atlantic becomes the problem child now, and the Atlantic comes, and the fault lines under the Atlantic now start being gravitationally massaged by these objects that are going to start more affecting the northern hemisphere now. We're going to see a whole change of patterns. We're going to see all the big volcanoes in the northern hemisphere begin to awake, and it's going to start with its most intense activity and then wane down. So we've got some of the biggest stuff coming in over the next few days. Like I say, with the alignment on the moon, we can expect this thing's very close to the ecliptic. It's not way above the ecliptic, and it's not way below. It's coming in almost on the ecliptic. So it's going to affect the full and the new moons. And this, the next few days, they're going to be reasonably. There can be a lot of volcanoes, and I can imagine over the next 2 or 3 days, we're going to see some big earthquakes at places in the northern hemisphere. And Iceland is not necessarily going to be the biggest eruption in Iceland. It could be, but this, when you start seeing, we had an earthquake in Nepal quite recently, around about the 2nd, 3rd of November sort of date. That is the fault line that runs. That's where the beginning of the, where you see the fault line that separates the Eurasian plate from the African plate and the what would it be? The Indo-Pacific plate, with all the Eurasian plate coming above. That fault line that kind of runs kind of under Europe and mostly in the Mediterranean, and then just tracks. Obviously, Africa below, and it just tracks. It traverses along up to the towards the Himalayas and goes up into the Himalayas, and that's where that's its beginning. That's where it really begins. And so when you're seeing earthquakes happening in Nepal, and you're seeing the Icelandic, this is the whole Eurasian plate that the fault lines are all becoming agitated right around the Eurasian plate. We've got big activity coming in. That was an incredible shot, also by Mr. MVB333, just showing. Obviously we could just say that's the Aurora Borealis, but imagine if that's actually the tail and it's being illuminated in the night sky, and we don't often get to see the tail, but the tail is being caught by the light of the sun. And there's so much stuff that we're being told which diverts us away from what's really happening, and maybe it's to stop us fearing this whole thing. Maybe there's nothing we can do about it, but for me, I'm of a mind that we can connect to great wisdom if we know our place in the grand scheme of things. And so when I'm going to come back now to I won't. That was an interesting shot, also by Mr. MBB333. That was posted on the 8th of November 2023, and he said he wasn't too sure if it was sunset or sunrise, but it just seemed like an incredible glow. But the moon is there, and I just took. I wasn't too sure because I found the shot quite perplexing, so I just kind of captured that date and that time and where he was looking at it from to try and get the view, because I'm assuming for the moon to be in the shot, the moon's on this side of it's on the side that you see at sunrise. So I'm assuming, is that right? The Earth's moving around this way, so you start to see the sun. So, and the moon's still on this side. It hasn't reached the new moon yet. It's not in it. It hasn't reached its alignment directly between the sun and Earth yet. So for us to see that shot, it's kind of, we're imagining this object to be coming in from, if you like, if we were looking, we'd see it coming in from this side of the sun, coming towards us. It's like it's arced on the other side of Earth, coming right round, and then coming back out over here, almost swinging back right round over here, and then coming towards us from kind of this point here after it's arced all the way around and coming towards us over here. And we're gonna go round and it's gonna fly by us. It should be quite close flyby. But again, maybe there can be another year before it's even. Maybe it can get even closer. Maybe it can get unbelievably bigger. Certainly, that shot that Dil Martin shot on the that I showed you earlier on the early January 2017, the same time as my really big shot that really put me on the map when I predicted almost to the day. I was like 3-4 days out. So what does that mean? What does that mean in terms of what are we actually seeing? What does this pattern really show us of what we're seeing? Well, one of the things I really try to, if I just come over here to what I wrote here, just to try and capture the mathematics, because ultimately we're charting 4 objects. The big blue and red object, or objects, they take 11 months to do one cycle, and they have a 12-year Earth sync for both to return to the same location. But they come into view every 13 months, or 1 month later than the previous year. And we're going to go to the 2 twin tail objects that don't go forward 1 month every year from further forward than the previous year. They drop back 1 month every year. And so the 2 twin tail objects that travel as a pair, they take 13 months to do a full cycle. Also a 12-year Earth sync. So they come back to the same place every 12 years, just like the other one. One's going 1 month further forward every year, and the other one is 1 month back every year. But that gives you that coming to the same 12-year kind of sinking point, you know, every 12 years, but coming to view every 11 months, or 1 month earlier than the previous year. So you can see that they've both got the number 12 in their numbers, and they've both got the number 13, and they've both got the number 11, even though their orbits are different. And even more bizarre was that when you I've just put down there, then you consider the 200-day anomaly. So the 200-day anomaly kind of opens with me discovering that there's a planetary or a comet, what looks like a comet-like object, flying by every 200 days. I find all of the flybys up to 2015, from 2011. I find all of the 200-day. I can't find, you know, I put them all together. I can't believe it. I make a massive prediction. The prediction comes into view for, you know, around the biggest one was on, really put me on the map, was on the 20th of January 2017, the one I showed you earlier, the one that really put me on the map. And then they continue to be that same 200-day anomaly right up to, well, 2000, when I came to America on the 17th of August 2017. 200 days, literally, after the big flyby on the 20th of January 2017. So I turned up in America. It was a big fuss. We did a big show to a lot of people, because Steve Olson set it up with the WSO channel. There was a massive Planet X channel back in the day. We did a big show. The flyby came in exactly on schedule. And then after that, we just got saturated with flybys. It was no longer every 200 days. They were just coming in left, right and centre. We were absolutely overwhelmed by the absolutely staggering shots. They were massive. All the long duration volcanoes suddenly begin. Shots, we saw all the fundamental real corridors. We were absolutely saturated with an incredible amount of shots that it took me the best part of 2 years to learn to understand that, to get a ballpark understanding of what was happening. And not to say that I'm correct, I'm just running an inquiry to try and bring this all into view, to try and make sense of what we're seeing. But can you imagine that the 200-day anomaly, which what was happening is every year I was turning out to be about 4 days out, and this was so consistent, this kind of 4-day correction, that you could see almost every other year I was having to deduct 4 days off the you know, if it was, you know, 200 days is almost half a year, but it's slightly more than half a year, because there's 365 days in a year. And when you add two of these cycles together, you end up with 400 days. But when you take the 4 days off to make it correct, even though you couldn't just delete 400 days and turn it into 396 and run that and get a sighting, it would all drop out. You could only kind of delete 4 days but not disrupt the overall pattern, as the whole thing would fall apart. It was the most disturbing mathematics, and I tried to understand what that was all about, and it was a long time after that I started understanding that this 396 days, I took 396, I divided it by 13, and then I times it by 12, and I came to 365, and realized that this 396 day number that was reoccurring, that I was discovering over and over with observing this 200-day anomaly, this overall 396 day, was actually also the number of Jupiter, because Jupiter takes 12 years to go around the Sun, and so every year we go round the Sun in 365 days, and we have to go exactly 1 month before we see Jupiter where it was the previous year, because it's moving 1 month in 1 year. Rather than going right round the Sun, it's doing 1/12. It's going to take 12 years to go all the way around the Sun, so it's going to do 1/12 of its journey around the Sun in 1 year, which is a calendar month, which is you add that to 365, you add 1 calendar month to 365 days, and you end up with 396. It was just like, oh my God, it's Jupiter. It's got the numbers of Jupiter to it. And then we see all of these planets independently. All of them, the pair, both planets show the number 13, and the big blue one and the big red one seem to also show the same pattern, the same number. This is absolutely saturated with the number 13. You know, outside of whatever you throw at this, these numbers keep reoccurring. There's unbelievable cosmic intelligent design in the mathematics of this system, just like there is in the mathematics of our system. And these, you know, when you kind of see that every 84 years we invent a dwarf planet, and that's, you know, we talk about there's 12, well, there's 7 12s makes 84. We see these cosmic mathematics that we get 7 cycles in every in a big cycle. It's not that there's no object that actually takes, in my opinion, 84 years to move around our Sun or whatever it moves around. Nothing moves like that. As I'm understanding it, that's how the grand deception has been fed to us, to hide these big blue objects and to conceal this fantastic system that we live in, that Elon Musk, I'm of a mind, is showing us here in this orrery this woman is playing that looks like a violin. The system that we really live in. We live in a magnificent system, and we are living in a 500-year-old story that doesn't, you know, it's got aspects of truth to it, but it's not the truth. It's just an aspect of the truth, you know. Anyway, I just don't know what else to add to that, really, but other than to say that it's looking like we've got a big flyby coming in, and I can't absolutely guarantee, because I just can't. I just don't know, and you can imagine that I've running this model for so long and trying to make sense of it, and knowing that at this point this is all about a time where humanity chooses the gods that will and the souls that will incarnate within it. This is the time when humanity chooses its gods. It's the residing souls that incarnate within us. We choose this, and we choose this by whether we go to war or whether we go into peace. And this is why they take us into these wars at these specific times, to lower our vibration, to take us into stories that separate us from our galactic center, that separate us from very high frequencies and high vibrational intelligence that most likely really created humanity, and shut us down. Shut us down. Anyway, it's not much notice, but I would really seriously think about getting a bug out bag, keeping all your stuff stocked up, and really being aware of how you're being manipulated now. We're at that point where we can expect a big flyby of a massive celestial object. And spiritually being aware. It's not the end of the world. It's not going to destroy us. It's not going to hit. It's not about that. It's the effect it has on humanity. You know, this big close flyby, if this is going to be the biggest one, which it really might be. You know, like I say, all I've done is charted these objects and tried to make sense of them. And you know, this is not really in my model, even though I have the orbital mechanics of it. I'm only just beginning to get a ballpark understanding of it. But certainly there seems to be a synergy with all of these. And I've got a funny feeling that with more sophisticated software and more time, we'll be able to observe. There's, you know, we're beginning this inquiry now. We're really starting to, you know, it's like we're all waking up bit by bit as this has been getting closer and closer and closer to the ecliptic, and ready for us to all begin the kind of like everything that's occurred below the ecliptic is about to happen above the ecliptic. Earth is ascending through the plane of the system that our sun really orbits. Yeah, so just prepare as best you can. You've got nothing to fear. You know, this is the point where could very likely be the point where we get a massive blackout. You know, I so thought it was going to happen with the big blue one, and you know, certainly like I say, we've seen more volcanoes going off simultaneously than we'd ever seen. Crazy storms. It was all going on. Everything's just off the radar now. World War III is just being kind of like near to starting. And remember when I wrote Laughing Gas, my book Laughing Gas, which was seeing all this coming in. I published it in 2011, where I said where you know, it was a man crazed where he'd seen his country being used in a vision, his country being used as the Trojan horse to break up the European alliance and feed Europe into a war against Russia, whilst the whole plane was just plummeted into a massive war. And this is the grand agenda to do this. And what I was told when I presented this to the gods was, don't worry about your Earth. I said, why am I showing this? Just so I can see this? Just so I can see this and do nothing about it, and have no power to do anything to stop it, no power to bring any awareness to any of this? And the answer I got was, don't worry about your Earth. I've already deployed my best. Unprecedented peace will now be waged on your Earth. And I'm of a mind that's what's about to happen, that humanity is now sufficiently advanced that we can We can see the patterns, and we can see they want to lower our vibration, and they've got many ways of doing that right now. But if we choose to navigate through this peacefully, oh, I'm so tired. I've been trying to do this all day. I've been trying to do this for a few days, and every time I try to do it, honestly, it exhausts me. The whole thing, touching this, absolutely exhausts me. I find it so difficult. It absolutely don't know how to navigate through any of this. But here we go. You know, you're in this now. So I'm gonna sound off here. Still desperately short of cash. If anyone wants to help me out with any money at all for donations or anything like that to keep me going with all of this, please. You know, my PayPal link is up in the somewhere up here in the. I think there's a donate button here. I can't see where it is actually. Maybe you see it and I don't see it. You probably see it on the when. I think it's somewhere around here, even though I can't see it on my on the page. But there's a donate page. Please, so anyone who wants to help me right now, please. Financially, this is a really challenging time, so I would so appreciate any support. Please don't be offended if I ask that. I ask that at the end of the video. I'm obviously, you know, what comes is what comes, and I offer this without cost. You know, it's I get all these horrible comments. Anytime you ask for money, you get such horrible comments in the comments, you know, kind of making you feel really quite guilty to kind of need money to kind of like survive and do all this stuff, this sort of stuff. And if I'm honest, it absolutely tears me apart to run these models and to see all this and to function as a normal human being while seeing all this. And a lot of people say, well, why would you want to do this? Why would you want to follow this? Well, the only reason is that I saw what happens to me if I don't engage. And I don't make the effort to align myself with something higher, and I just go along with this agenda and I pretend that I'm not here. Well, then that's the outcome I saw that made me right laughing gas. I didn't want that outcome for me, what I saw. And I wanted to engage and in solving this and evolving this opportunity to see all these flybys and to use this information to build an understanding of my place and our place in the grand scheme of things, and that is the grand inquiry there. And if it's helped you to kind of like to build your worldview, and you want to help me in any which way, please feel free. I would so much appreciate it. My email anyway, the PayPal link is obviously is an email address, and it's but my name is my real name is David Field. You know, I've used the name Dave Dobbs because that's the name I run in when I first run for government for the Free Party, and that's where that all started. And I've run with it for a long time, but I'm it's my real name is David Field, and my email address is puppetdave@yahoo.com, and that's the PayPal email address. That if you want to donate to the planetary cause that will help me take this further and put more time developing this model. Like I say, we've just been waiting on these flybys as they come through to be able to build a bigger model, but that bigger model will come. The next Dobbs model will arrive in the not too distant future, and when it does, it will be the correction of all the things we've brought to this model and how big this flyby will be, whether it will be like the one in this was the shot that was behind the text here, was the one that came in on the 20th of January 2017, the one that really put me on the map. And is that what we're about to see? Is it going to be November? Is it going to be late November, or is it going to be more like December? So difficult to say. But only time will tell. But you know, we're doing a desperate attempt to try and understand the orbital mechanics of it, to bring all that together. So thank you for your time. Thank you for following me this far, if you have done. I'm setting up a Patreon account here, Dave Dobbs Skywatchers Forum. I'm going to post this video on there. You are so welcome to come and join me there, and I'm just going to see what happens. I can't imagine, I'm feeling like it's over at the moment. I really am with the whole Planet X thing. I'm just feeling like that overall it's just humanity is not really interested in this that much overall. But I just don't know. But anyway, I've opened it up here, and so there it is. It's I will load this video onto there, but I'm going to save and publish that now, and that's open, and hopefully there are certain people you could join there, and you could get involved with me a little bit more via this channel. I'm going to try and work with this, so people who are willing to kind of support me a little bit and actually say, actually, Dave, I've been watching you for a long time, and I'd really like to offer you something back for all that you've done for me. If you want to, it's there, and my PayPal link as well. If that helps, it would help me. And people are going to make me feel guilty for needing money, but anyone who's out there who needs money, who works, who puts the type of time and effort that I put into this, to build this, and to make sense of this, and to trawl through this, and to try and run this, and go through the emotional overload of seeing this, that's a massive burden. It's a massive thing, and any help at this time is just being utterly amazing. And anyway, apologies for asking for help there, because I know it upsets certain people. They think that everything should be free, but I doubt very much those people who think everything is free, I bet they use money. I bet they do. I know they do. And but they just, they work for their side and I work for my side, and we're all choosing our gods here. And all of us. Some are choosing our gods by not choosing anything, just pretending that we're not here and living in the belief structures that have been set up to trap you, stop you making your connection to your highest. And you've all got to go on your journey. You've all got to go on your journey here. One way or the other, however it is, whoever you think you are. Many of you are going to go with Jesus, and that's the belief system that you're in. Many of you are going to go with the carbon zero story. And old Farmer Bill has, Farmer with a P, Farmer Bill has given out his special carbon zero medicine that's going to get us to carbon zero. And we've all got our various different routes that we're going to align with who we believe we are. And you've all got to go on your journey right now, and this is the grand bottleneck of either being your ego or being your higher self. Everyone's got to go down this journey now. Everyone's going to go through this massive bottleneck now of deciding which soul they want to be, because this will end with humanity becoming a singularity. One human, one soul, and no backseat drivers. Everything's going to be driven through the heart of the human state. And the only thought narratives that will go through your head are those that you create, that your humanity directly creates with its affiliations with the soul it chooses to incarnate through the heart of its being. Like I say, one soul, one human, and that will be it. So it's going to be a massive, expansive space opening up in the human psyche and in the human mind through this process. And great intelligence is helping each and every human decide which soul they want to become. And it's time for ego to come in now, for those who choosing to become their egos. But if your ego if you know that your ego is quite dark and that you have a tendency to channel monsters from time to time, you really got to think which side of the fence you want to be on. Because many of you have opened up doors to very dark spaces through trauma, through abuse of whatever form. However you've opened up, if you've opened up some dark doors, there's a fear there. There's a fear there, but all I can say is better the devil you know. Better the devil you know. At least you know you don't want to be that, and you know what you do when you open those doors. Say you drink and you abuse when you drink, or say you take drugs and you abuse when you take drugs, or say you've had trauma and when you're under stress you are traumatic and you're terrified of that. Fear is not going to stop that. Only really dealing with those triggers moment by moment. And if you have opened those doors, though you have as much to fear as anyone has to fear you, if you become your lowest aspect and bring that in and choose to bring that in, or choose not to choose whether to let that in or not, and just let it in because you just can't believe that can exist, and you are thus ruled by belief again, so you don't engage in anything and you just become what the only thing you can become if you choose not to bring in your highest and choose to work with your highest. It's a choice. All of this is choice that drives this, all of it. But it's one of those times that, they say, when I was a kid, they used to say, you used to cross your eyes and do that kind of like cross your eyes. I won't do it now in case it does stick. I hate doing it, but when you're kids, you cross your eyes and it looks kind of funny. And but my parents used to say, oh, you do that and they'll stay like it. Well, this is one of those times where if you choose to channel that really nasty energy, which can get you fantastic results. Some people can just channel their anger and channel these entities to get them whatever they want. And these entities, when they let these entities out and they release that anger onto people, imagine releasing that and not being able to unrelease that, and that just consuming you to the point where you did something that you just couldn't stop because you gave too much power away. That's what you're up against here. That's what you're up against here. That's what this time is all about. If you're all about channeling monsters, well, this is the time monsters come through us, if we let them. So anyway, there's a few things I've opened up there. Patreon thing. If you want to join me there, if you join into that, I will. I'll try and work with you much more directly because you're putting something in, and you're giving me something. Because at the moment I just can't afford to sustain it. I'm over it. If I'm honest, I'm absolutely over it. I'm over running a channel that is shadow banned. I'm over working, giving material to people that really want my videos, but can't give me anything. And I need a bit of support from this as well. I'm a little bit kind of like I'm over it. I'm over kind of being so isolated from my own community as well by doing these videos. It breaks my heart to do it. It really does, and yet I don't know what else to do. I just don't know what else to do. And so it's good luck through this time, I guess. Whatever this is, whichever the side of the fence you're on. But it's the armistice, whatever they call it, armistice, however you say it. The big peace, the ceasefire day tomorrow for Palestine, and for the Palestinians, and it was my birthday the other day, and I didn't do anything for my birthday, to be honest with you, nothing at all, and I just didn't want to give it any attention at all, really. I just feel so distant from the world at the moment. I really do. Believe it or not, if you're watching this video here, you're probably closer to me than most of my friends ever will be, because most people I know in this world are terrified to look at this. They're terrified because most of them are climate change believers. They believe they want to be carbon zero. Even though they're carbon based, they've gone down this narrative and they've given so much energy to this agenda with this story that it's a massive karmic equation involved in this. When you go down the story of belief, you're getting attached to stories which are going to change the way you interact with the world and are going to change the way in which you believe. It's going to make you think you're special. It's a bit like Christianity. Somehow believing that it's a horrible religion, Christianity. It's a very selfish, warring religion that breeds very selfish people. And very fearful people. And Netanyahu controls that, as Benjamin Netanyahu has always controlled. Israel has always controlled what the Christians do. And if Benjamin Netanyahu wants to feed Christians into a war against Iran, I don't know how many millions of troops they've got. Is it 11 million troops? I see all these figures battered around, but Turkey's just changed sides and is they're being forced to kind of like to integrate now with. Can you imagine what would happen? If Europe gets dragged into a war right now? Is now Erdogan, the president of Turkey, has now changed sides and decided that he's against the whole Israeli thing and what's happening in Gaza, and it's just if Europe does a single move to join this in any way, he will. You think about all the troops that Iran might have. You think about all the troops that Russia might have. You think all the troops that North Korea might have, and all these enemies that we are going to kind of like we are that Britain, America, and Israel are trying to start a war with now. It's so bizarre that we're just so desperate trying to start World War III. But can you imagine if Erdogan opens the floodgates to all the refugees coming up out of North Africa and everything else of that, and just lets them come across the border into Europe? Europe's going to take a stand. Europe won't go with this war. That's what I'm guaranteed, that Europe won't join this massive war. It would look like they will, but they'll pull out because they'll know there's no winning objective. It will be Britain, America, and Israel against Russia, North Korea, Iran, and Africa. Because we've done so much damage in Africa, Africa will unite. Already, kind of like many Africans are now kicking the French out. This this is going to seriously backfire. They're forcing us into a situation where it's do or die, it's war or die, and to go up against technology that is, so, I just mentioned my birthday party because it's just like, I couldn't celebrate that. I'm only thinking about the Palestinian sovereignty right now, and the sovereignty that was taken away from them when they were just had their birthrights just taken clean off them, and they're just cleared from their land at the end of the Second World War, and how that was just agreed, and how that was seen as just right and legal, when it was terrible what happened, and it wasn't right. And what's happened now, and with the Palestinians living in this open air prison for so many years, and there's karma involved in this process, and we're also deeply rooted in this karma. This is a load of Jesuses being crucified, isn't it? That's all it is. It's just no different as what was happening in Jesus' time. It's just Jesus being crucified. That's all it is. Again, just the crucifixion of Jesus. And with our consent, getting us to kind of stand and fight the good fight, just like they did with the vaccines, divide us on it. And then sure enough, some people are just going to be going on saying, no, it's got to happen, and it's only right, and the Palestinians are evil, and blah, blah, blah. And I just don't know if they are. I'm not trying to say the Israelis are evil. They've been served a lot and put in a land that they've been told is their legal right, but actually it's just led to a horrible, horrible situation. They've got a lot of Israeli friends that go to a lot of the parties. That doesn't mean I have to agree that the Palestinians shouldn't have birthrights. I've got my birthday party, and I just couldn't celebrate my birthday party this year. Couldn't give it any energy when I think about what's happening. I'm going to celebrate with everything that's going on. Anyway, onwards and upwards. Honey in your heart. I'm so sorry I'm not being effective at the moment. I don't know what to do about everything at the moment. We're just going to watch to see how big the seismology and the volcanism gets now. But by all accounts, it's looking like it's going to really go pretty crazy. And for all those that have been affected by the crazy weather, certainly Dollar Vigilante and Jeff Berwick and Max Egan lost their homes. They must have found it quite funny when they saw the kind of storm that hit England. They call it Kieran, which, if you look closely, is CIA ran. The government themselves love us to revert back to an idea that there's some part of humanity that is pressing a big button and making all these earthquakes and volcanoes go bang, and absolutely cannot look at any of these amazing sightings whatsoever. It's always got to be human caused. There's always got to be a guilty human at the end of it. It's just the way we're wired. Well, certainly the way the white man's wired. We just can't see these celestial objects. We all just jump to their conspiracy theories. They just chuck out another conspiracy theory, and we're just on it like. So they can't see this. They just see CIA ran. Kieran everywhere. I get it. I used to believe that I wanted to be carbon zero. I went to all the protests and that sort of stuff, and suddenly I realised it's all just total bullshit. And that what we want is abundant clean energy, but no one's calling for that. It's all just convoluted off spins of kind of carbon zero and carbon taxing and just total propaganda. No logic to any of it, other than to keep you outside of the true place of knowing your true place in the universe. So it's a long video. As you can tell, I'm so over making these videos now. They kill me every time. Just looking at it, it hurts me, and I can imagine it must hurt you. So I can see why people are scared to look at it. So they just go down the road of belief and carbon zero and whatever else the story is, and somewhere in the equation they've got to make a sacrifice. And it's not necessary that you have to make that sacrifice. But many will. And then you're out. And they're in. Yeah, the experience. Someone else jumps in and you jump out. Go wherever you go. Where do you go when you leave Earth? That's the question. And what do you do? What have you built for yourself beyond here with all the lies that you've had? You know, but when you see the massive populations that's exploded ever since Israel was created, really, you know, Israel doesn't really export oil. It exports oil products that have been made with oil. So it kind of refines and it uses oil to make lots of things. Nitrates is a big thing for Israel because it takes so much energy to make nitrates, and they've got all this oil coming through, so it's easier to process the oil while it's there and turn it into something which is more valuable and much cheaper to ship because it's a refined, smaller product than the original kind of crude oil. So they make nitrates, and they export nitrates, as in nitrous-based fertilizer, which is good for explosives and explosive populations. You know, just to get bumper crops. So the first nitrous-based fertilizer we discovered was 1850. Sorry, it was 1850. You know, it was the guano, fossilized bird shit, and that ran out in about 1900. And the population went from, I can't remember what the figures were, but it's probably something like about 1.3 billion. About 1850, could have been a bit more, and it just started exploding with nitrous-based fertilizer. And especially with mass-produced, you know, when in about 1900, when all the guano had run out, Britain exported about 20-30 million tons of it. And when it had all run out, we started manufacturing. We learned how to create, we learned how to use oil and gas and what have you to make nitrous-based fertilizers, to make specifically the ammonia. And so they use massive amounts of energy to make this ammonia, and they export it. And this ammonia, these nitrous-based fertilizers, is how we've got the world population from about 1.32 billion up to 7 or 8 billion. How we've made so many crops, just bumper crops every time with just like adding all these kind of like these nutrients and plant food and plant feed. And when there's if we can't produce that same amount of fertilizer because we've lost control of the oil, we've lost control of the currencies that buy all this stuff, we're going to be left with a massive population that we can't feed. But you have to wonder, why was there? If this was deliberately engineered and this was planned, and the plan was to massively increase the volume of humans living on the planet, that was the whole agenda, then why would you want to increase massively the amount of humans living on the planet to the tune of billions? Why would that be the grand plan? And when you start asking yourself that question, you start wondering, What do they need all these bodies for? Who's arriving? Who's about to arrive? Where are they all going to come from? And that's what this is really all about, is the big arrival of the souls that are about to come into this planet. And all of this has been prepared for this massive arrival of this massive soul group that comes through the doors of human belief. Belief being the means in which we can get a human being to attach to an idea and become angry and fundamental, and open up those doors to allowing a human being to be the believer that will be leaving, that leads to a state of belief where we attach ourselves to information which just simply isn't true, and it makes us fundamental, makes us fundamentalists, and that lowers our vibration and makes us accessible to lower frequency entities. That's why there's so many beliefs around at the moment. So just careful which way you go. All your triggers, tread carefully. If you want to help me, help me. If you want to join Patreon and try and work a bit more of a direct relationship with me, I'm up for that as well. And apologies for my rattling on long videos and everything else like that. It is what it is. You know, you're going on your journey and I'm going on mine, and at some point or other, all of us are going to have to wake up and realise this is really quite real, what's happening. And this could affect us profoundly. You know, it could affect us so profoundly. It could be a very long-lasting effect if we don't manage it well. So hopefully we will. Hopefully we'll get through this. Big golden rings of light. I'm actually exhausted now, so I'm going to go and have a lie down because this absolutely killed me. But take care. Thanks again. And I'll see you next time. Ciao.